These are the wheels of a Bugaboo Cameleon 2, one rear wheel and one front wheel. And we've recently been doing a series where we consolidate all of our knowledge concerning repairing the Bugaboo Cameleon 2 into a series of guides. So this video is going to be all about the mechanical disassembly of the wheels on a Bugaboo Cameleon 2. We're going to show you things like how to remove the axles and the ball bearings and various components. There's going to be a bit more to do on the front wheels. In order to kind of put all of our information in one place and help you troubleshoot any sort of problems that you have. So I'll start with the rear wheel. And on this, we're going to show you how to remove the cap and take out the axle, as well as shift the ball bearings if you need to do that. Problems this can be related to. So if you notice that you get kind of a rattling sound as you drive your stroller, that comes from the brake shoe coming in contact with the teeth on the rear side of the wheel or the inside of the wheel. This can very often be an indication that the axle itself is bent. And if you spin it around, you'll see that it's actually bent, if it's bent, because it'll lean a little bit to one side and kind of make a loop around. So if you need to replace the axle then, what you're going to want to do is to remove this cap, and you're going to need a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. And you're just going to turn it up on its side. Knock that hammer in so that you have a little bit of space to begin prying this cap. And you want to do this a little bit carefully so that you don't damage the cap, and you can put it on again afterwards. Work your way around, pry it up. There we go. So the cap came off, and you can see that there's sort of an inbuilt lock washer in there underneath, but there is another one here, and now we're just going to pry that one off as well. This one's coming relatively easily, but if yours is hard, you can start by using a smaller flathead screwdriver and prying up these teeth first. Beneath this is just a regular washer and a lot of hair and gross stuff. And then you can just pull out the axle. Now if it doesn't come out so easily, you can spray a little bit of WD-40 right in here. Allow it to loosen a little bit, and then of course use a hammer to get it out. There's the axle. Now you could replace that if necessary. And then here on both sides are ball bearings. In order to remove the ball bearings, you just take your flathead screwdriver again and pry it directly out. Signs that you need to replace the ball bearings are that the wheel feels loose. You can tell that the point at which the axle connects to the stroller is still tight. Often you can actually see that the ball bearing is damaged. There will also be a noise from a damaged ball bearing as those moving parts inside the balls and so on come into contact with sand or with each other, and it can make an annoying noise. There you go. In order to put a ball bearing, new ball bearing in, you just of course press it in. Then you can slide your axle back through. And then what you're going to want to do, hammer down your lock washer flatter, because it'll probably be a bit bent from prying it off. And then we're just going to put it back into place. Okay, so after hammering your lock washer flat again, we're going to put it back on. Don't forget to put that regular washer on first. This allows the wheel to rotate more smoothly. And you want to put that lock washer on top. And you're going to need either a pipe, or I like to use the head of a ratchet. Something in any case that fits around the circumference of the axle but rests on top of the lock washer, and that you can hammer. And what this allows you to do is to apply even pressure to all parts of that lock washer at the same time as you hammer it down into place. Now we're going to put the cap back on. If you have a rubber mallet, you can use that, or what I found works quite nicely is a teaspoon or an ice cream spoon. Just bend it a little bit, and of course take one that neither you nor your wife cares about, and then put it over the top of that cap, and this will help to preserve the shape of that cap as you knock it into place. There you go. So that is the disassembly of the rear wheel of a Bugaboo Cameleon 2, and now we're going to move on to the front wheel. Okay, we're going to move on to the front wheel now, and there's a few things we're going to disassemble. First being to remove the wheel itself from the fork. Again, this is mostly so that you can get at the ball bearings, which can often go bad on wheels. And we're going to do this in the same way that we did the back wheel, by removing the cap over the axle. So if you look at both sides of the wheel, one side is a little bit flatter than the other, and that is just the head of the axle itself. The other, that is more bulbous, is the actual cap. And beneath this cap, again, is a lock washer, so you're going to want to separate that after a while. Just going to dig your flathead screwdriver under and start prying it up from various sides in order to kind of do it evenly. And then separate it out from that washer when you get a chance. There we go. Pop right off. And then we'll do the washer as well. Now on the front wheels, I do tend to find that there is more often problems with the ball bearings. Oh wait, shot clear across the room. In some cases, the inside of the ball bearing will have rusted tight onto the axle. In that case, you can use a bit of WD-40 and stuff, but you might be up for some elbow grease work in order to get that wheel off. And you might even need to use power tools in order to separate parts of the damaged ball bearing from the axle itself. We've done this on a number of other strollers and in other videos. So if you search our channel, you'll see some demonstration of that, but really it's just a matter of using elbow grease in order to get the wheel out. Okay. At this point, you can hammer on that axle a little bit and then start to remove it from the back side. Another useful reason for taking apart this front wheel in this manner is to remove any sort of hair that has wound itself around the axle. You can see here, all kinds of hair and string and straw has a tendency to wind itself around there and can actually prevent the smooth rotation of the wheel after a while. Again, to remove the ball bearings, you're just going to use a flathead screwdriver and pop it out like this. Okay. While we have the wheel disassembled like this, we'll show some other ways to disassemble the fork itself. If you wanted to disassemble this lower portion here from this hinge, I'm not going to do that on video, but it's the same way that you remove the axle for the wheel itself. It has a head on one side and a cap on the other, this being the cap, this being the head. This here is the function for tightening the suspension of the front wheels, this being the tightest and that the loosest. You can now remove these springs if you need to in order to get at this part and also to get at the top shaft that connects the fork to the chassis. This is an element that commonly breaks. You're going to need to flip the fork over and get at the back side here. Pull up the swivel lock to its top position and then use a pair of pliers in order to just pop it up a little further. This will allow you access to a small screw here. Okay, now you can unscrew this screw. And what this allows you to do is to detach this little rubber flap, and that lets you get the rest of this out, and also allows you access then to the nut that holds the top shaft in place. So if you have a ratchet of that size, that's the easiest way to grip this. Otherwise, you can of course use a pair of pliers or a wrench as long as you can fit it in there, and you're just going to unscrew it. Inside here is another ball bearing that can be replaced. What commonly again breaks on this is the top portion that sticks out, protrudes from the top of the front frame of the chassis itself. So you might want to replace this entire shaft if necessary. Okay, that is the pretty much the full disassembly of this front wheel and fork. I'm now going to put it back together. You can just watch the process in case you have any trouble when you're putting it back together. You slide that in, and we're just going to tighten this nut again. There is a little washer under it to be aware of. In. There we go. And then remember to put this piece back before you reattach that rubber flap. That rubber flap, you're just going to slide in the back here. It's probably a little bit hard to see, but it kind of clips in under there. Then we can screw this screw back into place. There we go. Then there are, of course, these pieces, and do not forget the springs. Press that axle through just a little bit. Put the wheel back. And that axle will, of course, hold all of these parts together once you push it through the wheel. And then we're going to reassemble this cap the same way that we did the rear wheels. And start by hammering that locking washer flat again. And using our ratchet head in order to put it tightly on the axle. And our ice cream spoon, or teaspoon, to get that cap back on. Go. So that is our guide to disassembly and fixing of problems related to the wheels on a Bugaboo Cameleon 2. We hope this video was useful to you, and if it was, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. Thank you.